Both sides of my family, we have massive amounts of depression, anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, and addiction. This was not a question of if I was going to have a mental health disorder, it was which one was it going to be and when was it going to come out. Who thought this guy would have trouble adjusting to high school, right? But obviously what I was going through wasn't funny. At 16, I started experiencing clear symptoms of bipolar disorder. Then I'd go into these deep depression where I couldn't get out of bed and I couldn't do anything. And what I found was that binge drinking was a much quicker way to stop the thoughts, to slow them down, to pass out, and to sleep. When you drink as your coping mechanism, your symptoms don't get better. At 17, my diagnosis changed to bipolar disorder with anger control problems and psychotic features. I had massive outbursts of anger and severe hallucinations. When I went into my senior year of high school, I went into a horrible state of depression. It started off with loneliness. I didn't say anything. I thought the loneliness would go away. It led to thoughts of death and suicide 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 2 months, but I didn't say a word. I thought that one day I'd wake up and I'd want to live again. I thought that one day I'd wake up and everything would magically get better. But that day didn't come. And on January 5th of my senior year, I was hospitalized for attempting to take my own life. So I woke up that night, I looked in the mirror and I started crying. And I said to myself, all right, you're either going to continue this and you're going to die, or you're going to have to change. But the most important lesson I learned in my recovery was that I never chose to have bipolar disorder, but I could choose to change the way I coped with it. I could start being honest, I could stop hiding, I could stop drinking, I could start talking and exercising and writing and building relationships that mattered. Having bipolar disorder doesn't make me unique or different. A lot of people have it. What made my story different is what happened to me when I was in high school. I was actually born in Bethlehem and raised in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. I have to use the map because when I didn't use a map, people would get really angry and they'd be like, that's not a funny joke, man. You're not mental health Jesus. And I was like, right, I never said that. These places exist. When I got out of the hospital after attempting to take my own life, the reaction was not kind. In school, I was called the crazy kid, the psycho. I lost friends. I had rumors about me all through that town. And 2 months after I got out of the hospital, a psychologist came into one of my classrooms to talk about the patients he was treating. As he talked about the patients he was treating, every single student in that classroom started laughing. But I wasn't laughing, because by that point, I had been laughed at too much. And so I grabbed my teacher and I took him into the hallway and I said, this isn't funny to me. And he looked down at me in the most rural Pennsylvania way and he said, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And I had no idea that the answer I was going to give was going to change my life forever. But I looked back up at him and I said, let me speak. Let me tell people what it's like to go through this. I stood up in that classroom 2 weeks later and I spoke for the very first time. And when I finished, no one laughed. And I learned at a young age that if you share your story, it opens people to sharing theirs. So from age 17 to age 22, I spoke to high school classrooms in my darkest years about what it was like to have bipolar disorder. When I turned 23 and was doing better in treatment, I had this idea, why wasn't this a full school assembly? Why didn't I hear about this in high school? So I created the Youth Mental Health Awareness Movement. It was a nonprofit organization to start full school assemblies about mental health. I ran it for a year. And from 2002 to 2006, I spoke to over 500,000 young people in large-scale presentations. The goal was not to promote me. It was to figure out a system to train others so that we could have more diverse voices and get more people involved. Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So I asked myself again what's missing, and what was missing was a mental health curriculum. We're not teaching people about mental health. So in 2013, I created the Behind Happy Faces mental health curriculum, and it's now being used by over 70,000 middle school, high school, and college students. We will always need awareness, but we need to do more. We need to teach mental health the same way we teach physical health, from kindergarten through the rest of your life. Mental health is not something you do when something's wrong. It's not something you do when you have a problem. Mental health is something you build and you foster and you grow, much like your physical health. That's the future I see. Mental health needs to be taught. If we're going to see the perfection in people, they need to know their options. They need to know how to work on them. There is a massive amount of power in all of your stories. This issue doesn't change unless you tell yours. You won't know where it leads until you tell it.